Ladies and gentlemen, an erection is not just a physical response, it is one of the most beautiful demonstrations of how the human body, the mind, and desire work together in harmony. It is not random, it is a process that reflects health, youth, vitality, and energy. When a man becomes aroused, his brain sends a powerful message down through the nervous system, telling the body to prepare for intimacy. The signal is not weak, it is electric, and it demands the arteries in the penis to open wide and allow blood to rush in like a flood of life. That surge of blood fills the erectile tissue, swelling it, hardening it, and creating the strength of an erection. It is biology, but it feels like magic, and it is proof that your body is alive with sexual power. The penis itself is designed with incredible precision. Inside, there are two main chambers called the corpora cavernosa, spongy structures waiting to be filled with blood. When arousal happens, smooth muscle tissue inside these chambers relaxes, making room for blood to enter. At the same time, the veins that normally drain blood away tighten and close, trapping the blood inside, locking the erection into place. It is not just stiffness, it is nature's lock and key, a perfect system to keep you ready for pleasure until the brain decides it is time to release. None of this can happen without the brain. The brain is the most powerful sex organ, sending signals of arousal, creating fantasies, and building desire. An erection begins as a thought, a feeling, an emotion, or a visual stimulus. It can be triggered by touch, by memory, by scent, or by the sound of someone's voice. The brain lights the fire, the nerves carry the spark, and the blood vessels fuel the flame. Without the brain, an erection is impossible, because desire is what gives it meaning. Hormones are another essential piece of this puzzle, especially testosterone. Testosterone fuels sex drive, it amplifies arousal, and it makes the body sensitive to sexual cues. When testosterone is balanced and healthy, erections are frequent, firm, and lasting. When testosterone begins to decline, erections become weaker, slower to rise, and easier to lose. Hormones are invisible, but they control everything, and their rhythm determines how much energy, stamina, and desire a man carries inside him. The nervous system is the silent messenger. Nerves transmit the signals of pleasure and command blood vessels to act. When you are touched in the right way, nerves carry that sensation with lightning speed to the brain, which then sends the order back. Open the arteries, fill the chambers, create the erection. This happens in seconds, showing how quickly body and mind can align when desire is strong. Any damage to these nerves through injury, disease, or stress can interrupt the pathway and weaken the erection. Blood flow is the engine of an erection. Without strong circulation, the penis cannot rise or stay hard. Healthy arteries act like wide-open highways, delivering blood effortlessly. But when arteries become narrow, stiff, or blocked, the flow is restricted, and the erection struggles. This is why cardiovascular health and sexual health are deeply connected. If the heart is weak, the erection is weak. If blood pressure is uncontrolled, the erection loses strength. The penis is like a barometer of overall health. It shows you in the most intimate way how your body is functioning. Even oxygen plays a vital role. Blood delivers oxygen to the erectile tissue, keeping it alive, elastic, and responsive. Erections are not only for sex, they are for maintenance, keeping penile tissue healthy and preventing it from shrinking or becoming rigid over time. Nighttime erections during sleep are the body's way of keeping the penis exercised, stretching it, oxygenating it, and preparing it for future encounters. When these nighttime erections stop, the tissue begins to suffer, and sexual performance declines. Every erection is a dance of chemistry. The body releases nitric oxide, a tiny molecule that relaxes blood vessel walls and allows blood to flow freely. Without nitric oxide, there is no erection because the blood cannot move. This chemical is like the key that unlocks the gates of arousal. Drugs for erectile dysfunction, like Viagra, work by enhancing the effects of nitric oxide, proving how central this molecule is to sexual function. When your body naturally produces it in healthy amounts, erections are strong and natural. Psychology is intertwined with physiology. Confidence, relaxation, and emotional connection can make erections powerful, while stress, fear, or anxiety can shut them down instantly. The brain controls whether the body feels safe enough to allow arousal to fully develop. If the mind is tense, the body responds by restricting blood flow, tightening muscles, and blocking pleasure. This shows how fragile and yet how powerful erections really are, built on trust, freedom, and comfort as much as on biology. The spinal cord also plays its part, acting like a communication highway. Reflex erections, those triggered by touch, are managed here. Even if the brain is distracted, the body can still respond to direct stimulation through this reflex pathway. It is proof of how deeply wired sexual function is, and how multiple systems overlap to create the strength of arousal. Sexual energy is never random. It is the harmony of brain, nerves, hormones, blood, and psychology working together in a moment of intimacy. If one piece is missing, the system weakens. If blood flow is low, if testosterone is down, if nerves are damaged, if the brain is stressed, the erection struggles. This interconnectedness is why aging affects erections.
because aging slowly impacts each piece of the puzzle. Blood vessels harden, hormones decline, nerves become less sharp, and the brain carries more stress. But understanding the science of erections means understanding that this is not weakness, it is reality. The body is built to perform, but it requires care, attention, and health to maintain its ability. Erections are not just about pleasure, they are about life force, vitality, and energy flowing through the body. They are signals, they are warnings, they are rewards, and they are proof of the connection between mind and body. Blood vessels are the lifelines of an erection, and with age they carry the heaviest burden of time. When a man is young, his arteries are like flexible highways, wide open, elastic, and eager to carry blood. Every beat of the heart pushes a strong flow, filling the penis with life, creating erections that are firm, lasting, and unshakable. But as years pass, those same blood vessels slowly lose their strength. They begin to stiffen, they begin to narrow, and they no longer respond to signals the way they once did. What was once effortless becomes slower, weaker, less reliable, and this is why aging steals the hardness from erections. The penis is not separate from the rest of the body, it depends entirely on the cardiovascular system. The very same arteries that pump blood to your brain and heart also pump blood to your erection. So when arteries age, when they become coated with cholesterol, when they become stiff with plaque, the penis is often the first organ to show it. An older man may feel fine walking or sitting, but the moment he needs his erection to rise, the truth of his blood vessels is revealed. If they cannot open fully, if blood cannot flow powerfully, the erection fades before it even begins. Aging shrinks the flexibility of arteries. They lose the smoothness of their lining. They lose their ability to expand wide, and this creates resistance. Imagine trying to blow air through a straw that has been bent and narrowed. No matter how much pressure you use, the flow is weak. That is what happens inside the penis when arteries stiffen with age. The signal from the brain may still be strong, the nerves may still fire, the hormones may still rise, but without flexible blood vessels, there is no erection that can last. Every erection is a demand for blood. It requires arteries to open wide and flood the erectile chambers with force. When you are 20, this happens instantly. By 40 or 50, the response slows, because the arteries are no longer youthful rivers, they are aging pipes. The inner lining, called the endothelium, becomes damaged over time from smoking, poor diet, high blood pressure, and stress. Once damaged, it cannot release enough nitric oxide, the very chemical that signals vessels to open. Without that chemical, blood cannot rush in, and the erection is weak. This is why erectile problems are often the first sign of vascular disease. Long before a heart attack, long before a stroke, the penis sends the warning. It struggles to get hard, it struggles to stay hard, and men feel frustration, shame, or confusion. But the truth is simple. If blood vessels are aging, the penis feels it before anything else. Erectile decline is not just about sex, it is about survival, because it reflects the health of the entire vascular system. The penis is extremely sensitive to changes in blood flow, because the arteries that supply it are small compared to those in the heart or legs. That means even slight narrowing, even small blockages, have a massive impact. What the heart can tolerate for years, the penis cannot tolerate for weeks. This is why aging hits sexual function so quickly. It is not weakness, it is biology, and it is the body's way of screaming for attention. The stiffness of arteries is not only physical, it is chemical. With age, free radicals and inflammation damage the vessel walls, stripping away their elasticity. Collagen builds up where it does not belong. Calcium hardens the walls, and what was once supple and soft becomes rigid. Rigid arteries cannot pulse with life. They cannot respond to desire. They cannot create the surge of blood that an erection demands. Each passing year adds more rigidity, unless a man fights it with lifestyle, with care, with awareness. High blood pressure accelerates this decline. Every heartbeat slams against vessel walls, wearing them down, scarring them, thickening them. Diabetes poisons the vessels with sugar, making them brittle and unresponsive. Smoking suffocates them with toxins, stealing away their ability to open. The aging process may be natural, but these choices multiply its effects, and they attack the most intimate proof of manhood, his erection. When blood vessels weaken, the erection becomes unpredictable. Sometimes it rises, sometimes it fails, sometimes it disappears mid-act, leaving frustration and doubt. This inconsistency destroys confidence, and confidence is as vital to sex as the erection itself. The man begins to question his body, his partner begins to question his desire, and intimacy begins to suffer. All of it traces back to blood vessels that no longer flow like they once did. Even men who exercise and eat well cannot escape time, but they can slow it. Physical activity keeps arteries open, keeps blood pumping, keeps the lining healthy. A clean diet protects them from cholesterol and plaque. Stress control calms the vessels, allowing them to remain relaxed and elastic. Aging may bend the body, but discipline can keep the blood vessels strong, and with them, erections alive. The tragedy is that many men ignore these changes until it is too late. They believe erections fade only because of age, when in truth, age is only part of the story. Lifestyle, disease, and neglect accelerate the decline far more than years alone. A man of 50 who has cared for his vessels may perform like one much younger, while a man of 30 who abuses his body may already struggle. Blood vessels do not lie. They reveal the truth of how you live. Every erection is proof of circulation.
Every pulse of hardness is a sign that your arteries are open, responsive, and alive. When that pulse weakens, it is not just your sex life at risk, it is your entire health. To understand the role of aging on blood vessels is to understand that your erections are a reflection of your life choices, your habits, and your care for your body. Testosterone is the silent fuel behind every erection, every desire, every fantasy that stirs inside a man. It is not just a hormone, it is the essence of masculinity, the raw energy that shapes confidence, stamina, and the fire of sexual hunger. From the moment a boy becomes a man, testosterone begins to flood his system, turning thought into desire, desire into action, and action into powerful erections that feel unstoppable. It is this hormone that makes a man feel alive, dominant, driven, and capable of giving and receiving pleasure at the highest level. Without testosterone, erections become fragile, passion becomes dull, and the very force of manhood begins to fade. But testosterone is not constant. It peaks in youth, and then slowly begins its decline. A man at 20 has the strength of a storm inside his veins. Erections rise with the smallest touch, the faintest thought, the lightest glance. At 30, the fire is still burning, but behind the scenes the hormone levels are already sliding down, slowly, silently, invisibly. At 40, the changes become noticeable. Desire is not as sharp, erections are not as hard, recovery takes longer. At 50 and beyond, testosterone levels may drop to half of what they once were, and with that decline, a man begins to feel the difference, not just in his sex life but in every corner of his existence. Testosterone fuels the brain's ability to crave intimacy. It drives libido, the hunger for sex, the motivation to pursue, to fantasize, to connect. When levels are high, the brain reacts instantly to arousal, the body follows, and erections are hard and persistent. When levels fall, the brain is slower to react, the desire is weaker, and the erection follows reluctantly. It is not just the body failing, it is chemistry shifting, and chemistry controls the rhythm of your arousal. This hormone also controls the strength of erections by working with blood vessels and nerves. Testosterone enhances nitric oxide release, the chemical that opens arteries and floods the penis with blood. When testosterone is abundant, nitric oxide flows freely, erections are full, lasting, and strong. When testosterone falls, the release of nitric oxide weakens, the blood flow slows, and the erection cannot rise with the same power. This is why men with low testosterone often describe their erections as soft, inconsistent, or short-lived. It is biology reflecting the lack of fuel. The decline in testosterone affects not just the hardness of the penis, but the energy of the entire man. Fatigue creeps in, motivation drops, muscle mass shrinks, and mood becomes heavy. A man who once felt invincible begins to feel drained, irritable, or unmotivated. Sexual desire becomes a shadow of what it once was, and confidence in the bedroom starts to collapse. It is not weakness, it is hormone depletion, and it reshapes the very experience of manhood. Even the morning erection, one of the clearest signs of sexual health, is ruled by testosterone. When levels are high, a man wakes with strength between his legs, proof that his body is alive and ready. When levels are low, mornings are quiet, the penis remains still, and the reminder of youth fades away. This silent signal tells the truth about testosterone, and men who ignore it often miss the chance to correct the problem early. Stress accelerates testosterone decline. The more cortisol floods the system, the more testosterone is suppressed. Every sleepless night, every anxious day, every burden carried in silence chips away at the hormone that sustains sexual power. Poor diet and lack of exercise do the same, suffocating testosterone production, leaving the body weaker, fatter, slower, and less responsive. Alcohol, smoking, and drugs attack testosterone directly, crippling its production, and the man who indulges too often pays the price in the bedroom. Testosterone does not just affect erections, it affects confidence. It is the hormone that gives a man the boldness to initiate, the passion to seduce, the drive to keep going. Low testosterone robs a man of that confidence, replacing it with hesitation, doubt, and insecurity. Erections may still come, but they lack the intensity, the urgency, the pride that once defined them. Sex becomes mechanical, instead of fiery, obligation instead of hunger, and intimacy suffers. The body was built to thrive on testosterone, and when it declines, every system feels it. Bones become fragile, muscles weaken, fat collects, mood sinks, and erections lose their strength. The penis is not the only victim, but it is the most obvious. A man may not see his bones thinning, but he feels his erections disappearing, and that becomes the most painful reminder of what aging does. Some men experience this decline faster than others. Genetics play a role, but lifestyle is the greatest force. A man who eats clean, trains his body, rests deeply, and reduces stress can keep testosterone levels higher for longer. A man who ignores his health, who lets stress and toxins rule his life, loses testosterone at an accelerated pace, watching his erections weaken decades before their time. The difference is choice, and choice shapes the strength of desire. Testosterone is not just about quantity, it is about sensitivity. The body must respond to it, and with age, tissues often become less responsive. Even if levels are moderately high, the effect is weaker. This creates frustration. Numbers may look fine on paper, but the erections still feel weak. It is not just how much testosterone you have, it is how well your body listens to it, and aging reduces that response. The tragedy is that men often accept this decline as unavoidable. They tell themselves it is normal, that sex is for the young, that erections are supposed to fade, but this is only half true. Decline is natural, but surrender is not. There are ways to preserve testosterone, to boost it, to protect it, and with it to protect the fire of sexual energy. Exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress control, even medical therapy, all of these can reignite testosterone, and with it, reignite the strength of erections. Testosterone decline is not just a story of biology, it is a story of identity. It is the difference between a man who feels alive, ready, powerful, and a man who feels tired, hesitant, and disconnected from his sexual self. It is the hormone that determines whether erections are wild and urgent, or fragile and uncertain, and when it slips away, so does the raw edge of masculinity that wants to find every intimate encounter. Every lifestyle choice a man makes carves itself into his body, and nowhere does it show more brutally than in his erection. The penis is the most honest part of a man. It cannot lie, it cannot pretend, it simply responds to the health of the body, the balance of hormones, and the flow of blood. What you eat, how you move, how you rest, what you consume, and how you handle stress, all decide whether your erections are strong and proud, or weak and disappointed. Smoking is one of the most destructive choices a man can make because every cigarette poisons the blood vessels that his erection depends on. With every drag, nicotine tightens arteries, toxins scar their lining, and blood flow becomes weaker. Erections thrive on wide open arteries, but smoking makes them narrow, stiff, and unresponsive. The man may think he is enjoying his smoke, but his penis is suffocating, his erections are fading, and his sexual power is being stolen one cigarette at a time. Alcohol, though seductive, is another silent thief of erections. In small amounts it may loosen inhibition and spark desire, but in larger amounts it numbs the nervous system, dulls sensation, and interrupts the chemical signals that create arousal. The man who drinks heavily wakes up to soft erections, weaker desire, and the humiliation of a body that will not respond when the mind is begging for pleasure. Alcohol does not make sex better, it makes sex fade, turning passion into frustration and leaving intimacy empty. Diet is the foundation of erections, because what you put into your body becomes the blood that fuels them. A diet heavy in junk food, sugar, and processed fats clogs arteries, inflames tissues, and lowers testosterone. Erections rely on clear, strong circulation, but clogged arteries choke the flow, making the penis limp and lifeless. Every burger, every soda, every bag of chips is not just an attack on the waistline, it is an attack on the erection. On the other hand, a diet rich in fresh fruit, vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats nourishes the blood, protects the vessels, and keeps testosterone alive. What you eat is either a gift to your sex life or a weapon against it, and every bite decides how strong your erections will be. Exercise is the engine that keeps erections alive, and thus movement keeps blood pumping, hormones balanced. The man who sits all day, who never moves, who lets his body grow weak, is the man who will lose his erection faster. Blood begins sluggish, Exercise is not just for fitness, it is exercise for
Deep, restful sleep is not laziness. It is the fuel that keeps a man hard, hungry, and ready for intimacy. Stress is the invisible killer of erections. Every moment of anxiety, every burden carried without release, floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline, chemicals that shut down arousal and tighten blood vessels. Erections are a signal of relaxation, of safety, of pleasure, and stress destroys all three. The man who cannot manage his stress cannot manage his erection, because the mind controls the body and a restless mind creates a lifeless penis. Meditation, breath, rest, and emotional connection are not luxuries. They are necessities for keeping desire alive. Pornography, when consumed in excess, can also dull erections by desensitizing the brain to real intimacy. The constant flood of extreme stimulation rewires the brain, making natural arousal with a partner feel weaker and less exciting. Erections may still rise in front of a screen, but in the bedroom they falter, leaving confusion and shame. Pleasure becomes detached from reality, and the body struggles to respond. Moderation and mindfulness in sexual stimulation are key because the brain sets the tone for every erection. Drugs and medications also weigh heavily on erections. Recreational drugs hijack brain chemistry, disrupting desire, dulling sensation, and damaging circulation. Even prescribed medications, antidepressants, blood pressure pills, and others can weaken erections by interfering with hormones, nerves, or blood flow. The man who ignores these side effects without seeking solutions loses not just his health but his sexual fire. Awareness, medical consultation, and balance are essential to protect the erection from chemical sabotage. Obesity is one of the clearest reflections of poor lifestyle choices, and it devastates erections in multiple ways. Excess fat lowers testosterone, clogs arteries, and fuels inflammation. The larger the belly, the weaker the erection, because the body is drowning in imbalances that strangle desire and performance. But weight loss, even small amounts, can restore blood flow, boost testosterone, and reignite erections. Every pound lost is not just health gained, it is sexual power reclaimed. Hydration is often overlooked, but water is the blood's carrier, the fluid that keeps circulation strong and tissues healthy. Dehydration makes blood thicker, slows circulation, and weakens arousal. A man who ignores water ignores his erection, because the penis needs fluid, oxygen, and flow to rise with strength. Simple habits like drinking enough water are small choices with massive sexual impact. Every lifestyle choice is either a weapon against erections or a shield that protects them. Oh, the man who smokes, drinks, eats poorly, avoids movement, skips sleep, lives in stress, and ignores his body is the man who will lose his erections first. The man who disciplines himself, who eats with purpose, who trains his body, who rests deeply, who manages stress, and who nurtures his mind, is the man who keeps his erections strong even as years pass. Aging is inevitable, but lifestyle decides how brutal or how gentle that aging will feel in the bedroom. The mind is the most powerful sex organ, and no erection can exist without it. Every rise of desire, every swelling of arousal, every hardening of the penis begins first in thought. A fantasy, a memory, a glance, a touch, all of it is filtered through the brain, and the brain decides whether the body should respond. The penis does not act on its own, it acts on the commands of the mind, and that means the mental and emotional state of a man has the power to make or break every erection he experiences. Confidence is the foundation of sexual performance, and without it, even the strongest body can fail. A man who doubts himself, who fears failure, who questions his ability to perform, creates stress inside his brain that shuts down arousal before it can begin. The nervous system is designed to choose between survival and pleasure, and when fear is present, survival always wins. Blood is pulled away from the penis, adrenaline floods the body, and the erection dies before it is fully born. Confidence, on the other hand, creates safety. It relaxes the mind, it frees the body to allow blood to flow, and erections rise with ease when a man trusts himself completely. Anxiety is one of the cruelest killers of erections. The man who obsesses about whether he will get hard, whether he will stay hard, whether his partner will be satisfied, sabotages himself with every thought. The brain, instead of sending signals of arousal, sends signals of panic. The penis, instead of filling with blood, shuts down in defense. Anxiety builds a wall between desire and performance, and the harder a man tries to force his erection, the faster it slips away. Breaking free from anxiety is not about forcing an erection, it is about calming the mind, learning to be present, and remembering that sex is about connection, not performance. Stress outside the bedroom also bleeds into erections. Work pressure, financial struggles, family burdens, all of them sit heavy in the mind, and the mind carries that weight into intimacy. A man who is mentally overloaded cannot relax, and without relaxation, arousal cannot flow. Erections thrive in peace, in calm, in focus, and the man who lives in constant stress finds that his body refuses to perform when he needs it most. The bedroom cannot be a battlefield of thoughts, it must be a sanctuary where the mind feels safe to surrender, otherwise erections will always be the victim of stress. Emotional connection is a force that either ignites or extinguishes erections. A man who feels desired, loved and connected to his partner finds that his body responds easily. His brain rewards him with arousal, his penis fills with pride, and intimacy becomes effortless. But a man who feels unloved, rejected, or emotionally disconnected struggles to rise because the brain no longer sends signals of passion. The penis knows when the heart is not involved, and without emotional intimacy, physical intimacy loses its strength. Sex without connection becomes mechanical, and erections without connection become fragile. Shame is another poison to erections, because it teaches the brain to associate sex with fear and guilt instead of pleasure. Men who have been shamed about their bodies, their desires, or their performance carry that weight into adulthood, and every erection is shadowed by the fear of judgment. The brain remembers pain, and when intimacy begins, shame reactivates, blocking arousal. The man may want to perform, but his body refuses, because deep down he does not believe he is worthy of pleasure. Healing this shame is essential, because no penis can stand strong when the mind is drowning in guilt. Depression is a silent thief of erections. It drains energy, flattens emotions, and numbs desire. The brain becomes heavy, pleasure feels distant, and the signals that should trigger arousal fade away. Erections weaken not because the body cannot respond, but because the mind has lost its will to ignite. The penis mirrors the mood, and when joy disappears, so does hardness. Treating depression, seeking light, and rebuilding
Building happiness restores not only life, but also the natural flow of sexual energy. Trust is another mental pillar of strong erections. A man who feels safe with his partner, who feels accepted and supported, finds his erections powerful and lasting, but a man who feels judged, compared, or doubted, shrinks inside, and his erection shrinks with him. Trust allows vulnerability, vulnerability allows relaxation, and relaxation allows blood to flow. Without trust, the brain cannot surrender, and without surrender, the penis cannot rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, even imagination plays a vital role in erections. The mind paints pictures, creates fantasies, and feels arousal with images that excite the body. A rich imagination makes erections wild and responsive, while a dull or distracted mind makes them slow and hesitant. Men who stop feeding their imagination, who stop exploring what excites them, slowly lose the spark that fuels their arousal. The brain must be fed with novelty, with passion, with stimulation, because when the mind is hungry, the penis starves. Performance pressure is one of the most common mental weights men carry, and it crushes erections under its force. The idea that a man must always be hard, always be ready, always satisfy, creates an impossible standard. The more he focuses on proving himself, the more the body rebels, because arousal cannot be forced, it must be allowed. Erections thrive on play, exploration, and freedom, but performance pressure turns sex into a test, and no erection can survive when sex feels like an exam. Past experiences also shape the present erection. A single failure, a moment of embarrassment, a time when the penis did not respond, can plant a seed of fear that grows with every sexual encounter. The brain replays the memory, whispers doubt, and convinces the man that it will happen again. This cycle of fear becomes self-fulfilling, and the erection fades before it begins. Breaking free means rewriting the story, creating new experiences, and refusing to let one moment define an entire sexual life. Emotional well-being is inseparable from sexual performance. The happier a man is, the more connected he feels, the more relaxed his mind, the stronger his erections. The more burdened, anxious, depressed, or ashamed he feels, the weaker they become. The penis does not live in isolation, it is tied to the mind, and the mind controls whether it flourishes or fails. A man who cares for his mental health, who protects his peace, who seeks connection and joy, is a man who keeps his erections alive. Erections are a reflection of overall health, and when medical conditions strike the body, the penis is often the first to reveal the damage. Sexual performance does not fail in isolation. It fails because something deeper is wrong. Something inside the body is stealing the blood flow, weakening the nerves, disrupting the hormones, or crushing the energy that fuels arousal. The truth is simple. Erectile strength is one of the clearest indicators of a man's health, and when it fades, it is often a warning of serious medical conditions. Diabetes is one of the most devastating enemies of erections. High blood sugar corrodes the arteries, damages the lining of blood vessels, and leaves them stiff and unresponsive. It attacks the nerves that carry arousal signals, making sensation weaker, slower, or completely numb. It disrupts hormone balance, lowering testosterone, and further stripping away desire. A man with diabetes may find his erection fading even when his mind is hungry for sex, because his body no longer responds to the call. Every uncontrolled rise in blood sugar slowly robs him of his sexual power, and many men discover their diabetes only after their erections begin to vanish. High blood pressure is another silent killer of erections. When the pressure inside the arteries is constantly high, vessel walls become scarred, hardened, and unable to expand. Erections demand wide-open arteries, but hypertension keeps them tight and rigid, unable to deliver the surge of blood needed for hardness. Medications for blood pressure can sometimes worsen the problem, further slowing blood flow or dulling sexual response. The man who ignores his blood pressure is ignoring his erection, because every heartbeat against damaged arteries is another step toward losing his sexual fire. Heart disease strikes at the very core of sexual health. The heart is the pump that drives blood to every organ, and the penis is at the mercy of its strength. When the heart weakens, when arteries are clogged, when circulation slows, erections become weak or impossible. In fact, erectile dysfunction often appears years before a heart attack, because the small arteries of the penis reveal blockage sooner than the larger arteries of the heart. A weak erection is not just a bedroom issue, it can be the first red flag of life-threatening cardiovascular disease. To ignore it is to gamble not only with sex but with survival itself. Obesity is a medical condition that crushes erections in more ways than one. Excess fat disrupts hormones, lowering testosterone and raising estrogen, turning the balance of masculinity against itself. It clogs arteries, weakens circulation, and inflames tissues throughout the body.
It fuels diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease, multiplying the risk of erectile dysfunction with every pound gained. Obesity also creates psychological weight, leaving a man self-conscious, ashamed, or disconnected from his body. Erections thrive on confidence, and obesity steals both confidence and biology, making the struggle for hardness one of the clearest consequences of neglecting health. Neurological conditions also devastate erections, because without nerve signals, arousal cannot reach the penis. Diseases like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, or spinal cord injuries disrupt the communication between brain and body. The brain may be alive with desire, but the penis never receives the message, leaving a painful disconnect between mind and body. Even small nerve damage, such as that caused by diabetes or surgery, can strip away the ability to feel arousal or sustain hardness. Nerves are the electric wires of sexual function, and when they fray, the erection collapses. Hormonal disorders also play a role in erectile decline. Low testosterone is the most common, but imbalances in thyroid hormones, prolactin, or cortisol can all disrupt sexual performance. These hormones affect mood, energy, and desire, and when they are out of balance, the erection weakens. A man may not realize his thyroid is underactive, or that his stress hormones are too high, until he notices his erections disappearing. Hormonal balance is delicate, and medical conditions that disrupt it can steal the strength of intimacy before anything else. Kidney disease is another hidden enemy of erections. Damaged kidneys fail to filter toxins, hormones become imbalanced, and circulation weakens. Many men with chronic kidney disease experience erectile dysfunction, not only from the disease itself, but also from the exhaustion and depression that come with it. The body is overloaded with toxins, energy is drained, and desire fades into silence. The penis mirrors the suffering of the kidneys, showing in every failed erection how deep the damage goes. Prostate conditions also affect erections in profound ways. Prostate cancer surgeries or enlargement can damage nerves and blood vessels in the pelvic region. Treatments such as radiation or surgery may save a man's life, but they often leave scars that make sexual performance difficult. The prostate sits at the crossroads of sexual function, and when it is compromised, erections often pay the price. Men recovering from prostate issues must often rebuild their sexual life with patience, therapy, and new approaches to intimacy. Lung disease can even play a role, because erections require oxygen-rich blood. When the lungs are damaged from smoking, asthma, or chronic disease, oxygen levels drop, circulation weakens, and erections lose their strength. The penis is an organ of blood flow, and without oxygen, blood cannot fully energize the tissues. Breath is life, and without strong breath, erections cannot rise with power. Even infections can disrupt sexual health. Sexually transmitted infections, chronic inflammation, or untreated infections in the urinary or reproductive system can cause pain, scarring, or nerve damage that interferes with erections. Infections that are ignored spread silently, damaging tissues until the penis itself can no longer perform. The man who avoids medical care out of shame or denial ends up losing more than just his health. He loses his ability to experience intimacy. Cancer treatments, especially chemotherapy and radiation, also devastate erections. These treatments save lives but often damage blood vessels, nerves, and hormone balance in the process. Men fighting cancer often find that their sex drive disappears and their erections vanish, not because they no longer desire intimacy, but because their bodies are too damaged to respond. Healing from cancer is a battle, and rebuilding sexual strength afterward is another battle entirely. Even medications prescribed for unrelated conditions can weaken erections. Antidepressants, antihypertensives, anti-anxiety drugs, and many others can interfere with desire, nerve response, or blood flow. A man may take pills for his mind or his heart, not realizing they are stealing the fire from his sex life. This creates a cruel paradox, treating one illness by sacrificing another part of health. But awareness and medical guidance